Panagdait sa tanan and welcome back to Practical Research 1. Our lesson for today is all about understanding qualitative data. For our objectives, at the end of the lesson, you are expected to define qualitative research data and differentiate the different sources of data and decide on the population and the sample. Let us start by answering the question, what is data? You may pause the video and try to answer this question using your own words. Once you are done, you may play the video again. Okay, I will assume that you already have your answer. So let us now check the definition of data. So accordingly, data refers to informations that are acquired for the purpose of solving or answering our research problem. So in other words, those information that are collected directly that is related to our research problem. Meaning, those information nga dili related sa tong research problem cannot be considered as data. So again, when we say data, in the world of research, only those information nga related sa tong research problem can be considered as data. So now we have the different sources of qualitative data. Kabalo namang gyud nga si data are information that is related sa tong research problem. And this time, let us discuss kung unsaon nato pagkuha aning mga data or information. So we have different ways in getting the qualitative data, no? So I'm sure kaning sources of qualitative data, we are here referring to the time nga mag-interview ta. For example, I'm not sure if ka-try na mo research in your high school, but I'm sure naka-familiar mo that in research, naagit tay interview session. So na makita kita estudyante nga ga-interview og laing students or mga professionals. So in our case, the first way that we can get information is through interview. Familiar naman kita unsa ning interview, no? Let us proceed to the next one, focus group discussion. Let us try to compare interview and focus group discussion. Well, dili kayo sila different, but there is something unique sa ilahang duha. So, for interview, it focuses on one-on-one session, si interviewer and si interviewee. While si focus group discussion, from the word group, so meaning, dili siya individual but at least 3 persons to 6 persons. So minimum of 3 person to 6 person imuhang i-interview. In focus group discussion, katong 3 to 6 persons, idungan nimo sila interview. Unlike sa interview form number 1, one-on-one lang gyud siya, isa-isahan nimo interview ang mga participants nimo. In focus group discussion, idungan nimo sila tanan. And dili tanan but 6 ra ang maximum nga limitation. So the question is nganong 6 ra man? That is because if mo exceed tag more than 6 participants, there's a tendency nga mawala ato ang focus. Mawala ang attention sa tuang participants sa tua basin magtabi sila, and then dili kayo ta ka-concentrate because daghan kayo tag lantawon. So mo kay gitawag siya focus group discussion para naatay focus para free ang information nga ma-share. The next one is observation. There are times manggod class na dili enough ang question and answer method. Mas best manggod kung i-observe nato ang certain nga scenario for us to answer this specific research problem. For example, this observation can be applicable in high school. Katong high school ta nga naamang gyud time nga mag-demo si teacher. And during the demonstration of the teacher, naagay mo observe sa iya. It could be the principal, mga head teacher, and mga kuan niya, kauban niya nga mga teacher. So that is one way of applying observation. Unsa may gibuhat atong mga ga-observe kay teacher while ga-demo. So they are observing whether the teacher's performance is they're observing the teacher's performance. Much better magud kung mo-observe sila directly sa demonstration compared to mag-interview sila sa students or sa teacher. Okay? We also have written documents. So accordingly, we can also collect data using written documents. It could be from old newspapers, magazines. So it included na po diri no kanang mga electronic nga data. Basically, kaning written documents is kanang makita gyud nato sa library. Number 5, we have artifacts. So when we say artifacts, atong una gyud nga mauna-unaan is something old. something na I value, something that is expensive. So, which is actually correct. Artifact refers to objects, mga objects nga na I value that we can use to gather informations from. For example, ani is kanang sa Egypt bitaw. If you are fond of watching documentation, we might already know that some artifacts nga makita karon, which is from ancient Egypt, are actually very helpful in gathering information for us to understand the way of living in their time. So I'm sure nakasabot na mo unsa nino. Let us proceed to the next one. We have existing audios and existing videos. So very sayon ra kay siya sabton. For audios, any recordings nga na record, and then for existing videos, pwede siya kanang gi-stream sa television, sa internet, or kanang videos nga that is captured by other participants. So again, these are the different ways or different sources of qualitative data. Let us now proceed to population and sample. Let us first differentiate the two. When we say population, it refers to the overall or the total number of people living in a certain area. When we say sample, it refers to a part of the population, meaning mas daghan si population, then si sample is part ra siya sa population. Kanang for example mokuha kag 5 ka sample ani nga population. So sample is gamay ra siya, mamili ra kag number. So population refers to individuals who met the selected criteria to participate in your study. In the world of research, naputay ato ang meaning sa population. Kaganina, we discussed the general meaning of population as um, the total number of people living in a certain area. In the world of research, population refers to the total number of individuals that is qualified to participate in our studies. So, mao na ang population. Na magitay criteria. Criteria refers to mga standards bitaw that will help us determine kung kinsa tong tawo nga pwede nato interviewon, because in our research dili magud pwede nga interviewon nato tanang tawo, dili man ta basta-basta makapili og interviewon. So naman tay criteria ana. For example, inyong criteria is dapat estudyante siya sa Columban, dapat gapuyo siya Pagadian City. So meaning dili ta maka-interview og basta-basta kung wala na siya na-meet sa tuang criteria. So in qualitative um, research, so we are focusing on a sample. So meaning, although daghan tag possible nga ma-interview, daghan atong population sa tuang ma-interview, mamili ra jud tag sample. Gamay ra atong pilion nga interviewan. For example, ato ang sa ato ang criteria is dapat gaskwela siya Columban and then senior high school siya. So syempre daghan man kaitag senior high school. So mao to sila ang population or sila tong individuals that are qualified to participate in our research. But dili man nato kaya nga interviewon tanang estudyante sa Columban. So meaning atong buhaton ana is mangita ra tag sample. So mag-select ra ta. So karon kabalo naman ta nga we are not required to interview the population sa atuang criteria, and then we only need to select samples. The question is unsaon po nato pag-select og sample nga daghan makay tagpilianan. So we have here actually strategies, no, for to guide us unsaon pagpili og accurate nga sample sa atuang population. So we have purposive sampling, snowball sampling, multiple variation sampling, and convenience sampling. Starting with purposive sampling or purposeful sampling, from the word, ay, aron dili mo malibog ha, sampling refers to sample. No? Kuan ra siya, gilain lang yung term. So purposive or purposeful sample, from the word purpose, no, there is a certain purpose nga nung gipili inimo ni nga individual. As what I've said earlier, we are using criteria in purposive sampling. Okay, so here are the different ways that we can select an individual for our research. First, they meet our selection criteria. They have the expertise on our research topic. So, syempre, dapat atong pilion pod nga participants is katong feel nato or kabaluta nga maka-answer gyud sa tuang question, and they are willing to share truthfully what they know. So dapat willing pod mo share ato ang participants gipili. So dili nato sila pugson if they do not want to participate in our research. So again, gitawag ni siyang purposive sampling because naatay gigamit nga criteria or naaputay mga lain pang standards nga gi-consider in choosing this specific na individual to become our participant. Snowball sampling is actually very easy. For example, in our research, I will require you to interview at least 10 participants. So, kung i-compare nato ning snowball sampling to purposive sampling, we are just using a criteria here. And by that, tantaw lang ta criteria and pwede na dayon ta mo list down og mga names sa mga participants that pwede nato interviewon. So in purposive sampling is makalist down na ta sa mga participants nga pwede nato interviewon. But in the snowball sampling, dili nato sila malista tanandaan. Because atong buhaton aning snowball sampling is we just need to select at least two participants, one or two participants sa sugod, and then the rest nga participants nga need na to interview is kanang kwaon ra nato siya as suggestion from the first participant na ato ang interview. For example, interviewon nimo si Juan. And then, pag human nimo interview niya, you will ask him a question if kinsa pay pwede interviewon that feel niya maka-answer po sa tuang research problem. And then, si Juan will give a suggestion. It could be his friend, his family, and others. So, mana ang snowball sampling, requesting the participants to help you find other potential research participants. Okay, multiple variation sampling. From the word multiple, we are getting multiple perspective from varied people. For example, the title of our research is, ato ang research problem rather is, nganong ang parents dili motabang sa schoolwork sa iyang students. So in that research problem, ato ang interviewon gyud or ato ang participant gyud ana is the parents. Kay sila man gi-highlight sa problem, no? Why does parents, ngano ang parent dili motabang sa schoolwork sa ilahang students? So basically, parents gi number one nga interview ana. But since we are in the multiple variation sampling, dili lang kay parents ato ang interviewon, kay multiple variation man, meaning daghan tag interviewon. So it could also include the student itself or the child. We can also include the teacher and other people nga, other profession or categories nga related sa problem. Then we have convenience sampling. From the word convenience, kanang hayahay bitaw, kung unsay naa, interviewing people who are conveniently available and accessible. So, dili kayo ni ginagamit actually ang convenience sampling. It is actually used talagsa ra gid siya gamiton. So, ang example ani is kana bitaw mag-interview ka mga tawo nga dali ra kaayo. I mean dali ra pangitaon, for example, imong friends, families kanang dali ra kayo nimo um, matawag ba. So, nganong dili man kayo gamit si convenience sampling? That is because ang included man gud ani atong example nato kanina, it could be your family or friends kay dili man siya kaayo accurate imong data magather if you are going to interview your family or friend. Ano man. Let us say for example in yung research is all about something sensitive, HIV, AIDS, or um, premarital sex, for example. If you are going to interview if kita mismo interviewon ta sa tuang kuya, ate, or sa tong parent about premarital sex, so di ba, the information that we might share is medyo dili kay siya accurate kay medyo sensitive man gud ang topic, and there are times nga maulaw pud ta mo share sa tong idea, especially sa tong parents, sa tong family, or sa tong friend. If i-compare na to na sa kung ang interview sa to is a total stranger, and then ang question is about premarital sex and other sensitive nga mga topics, so mas accurate atong kuan, mas truthful ta sa tong answer nga ato ang i-share, dili kayo ta awkwardan. And aside ani, convenience sampling is also very useful in the world of criminology, di ba? For example, kung naay certain incident, ang ato ang interviewon man gyud ana is those person that is available on the time of the incident. Kanang mga tao nga nakakita mismo sa accident. So, mo to siya ang convenient sampling. So that would be the end of our lesson for today, and I hope that you learn a lot. For questions and inquiries, do not hesitate to send a private message to me, and then do not forget to answer the activities posted, and be sure to send your answers before the deadline. Thank you, class, for coming, and see you again next meeting.